we're going to see a tool to write in a collective way. You already know probably this tool, the Google Docs. Everyone listen about Google Docs. Sometimes when we are working in worksheets from Excel and LibreOffice Calc and etc., we usually have a group of teachers that has to give information about their work. So they share a worksheet inside Google Docs, and each person has to write their own information of curriculum inside that that worksheet. It's better than having a same worksheet sent over and over and over inside many emails. This way, everybody can see the progress of the fulfilling of that worksheet. Here they present another tool that it's called Etherpad. I don't know this one, but inside the paper, the group of students preferred the Google Docs tool than the Etherpad tool. So let's stick to the Google Docs tool. Okay. So they approach the technique and the process of writing inside a group, with many people editing the file, the worksheet, or the document at the same time. So there are problems if many people are involved, and if all the people are editing the document at the same time. Normally, when we write papers in collaboration, not in this case of the worksheet that I told about, normally I work first, then the other author picks the paper and works 1 month or 2 months, and then the third author works 1 month and 2 months and submits. So I think along the way that I am working, I found out that the best way is to each one works at a time. Just if one is writing a literature review and another one is doing the analysis of the data found in the field, sometimes they can work simultaneously in 2 different parts of the work. But if the 2 people are working in the same part at the same time, it's not going to be a good thing. Okay. A good thing of publishing together is because one person is good at formatting, and another one is good in statistics software. Another one is good in English or Spanish or Portuguese or whatever, and another one is good at having insights of how to contextualize data inside the bigger picture. So when you work in a team, everyone has the chance to contribute in the strong areas. Okay. Okay. So the female professor says that there is a theory that can explain what happens inside this process of writing together with other people. And this theory is from Vygotsky. This book, this version, this revision of the book is from 78, but it was truthfully, this was published in the beginning of the 20th century. Okay, so this theory is about making people stay together with other people that think about similar subjects, but if you want to learn something, you have to be near someone that knows more than you. It's a little common sense that. And if you want to learn something good, you have to go out of your comfort zone. So this idea of comfort zone is was built by Vygotsky. So the author Vygotsky says that there is a zone of proximal development, and this zone is the distance between the actual developmental level as determined by independent problem solving and the level of potential development as determined through problem solving under adult guidance or in collaboration with more capable peers. I'll say, let's say that this zone is the frontier between your comfort zone and the area of knowledge that you don't know anything about. So when you get in the frontier, you learn. When you are in your comfort zone, you don't learn. And if you are outside your frontier, you are so lost that it's difficult to learn. So it's better to be in your frontier, your ZPD, that you are going to learn faster, okay? A good way to learn is to be involved in a community of practice, and sometimes if you can't be involved in a community of practice, your authors from your literature review end up becoming your community of practice. Sometimes when you read a lot about a thing that your peers don't know about that thing, you end up making discussions, you and yourself in your texts. So you end up reading a lot and categorizing information and then putting that to publish. That can be a little substitute to the community of practice when you don't have people to discuss about a thing. Okay, you can share information using these softwares like Google Docs and Skype and etc. Some versions of Skype you can in one side of the screen show the presentation or the worksheet or the document, and the other half of the screen you can have yourself in the video, or you can have a chat with a group of people. So this way you can share information with the group without having the difficulty of reading the text just like this, okay? I think it's the Skype Premium that has this feature. Okay, everybody knows what is Web 2.0? Okay, the first generation of internet was that generation of ERC and ICQ and etc. And we used to search for information inside Yahoo and Alta Vista and etc. And many times the information was available, printed, but was not available in the internet. It was 20 years ago, approximately. But the next generation, there was more information available. The search engines were more intelligent, and so sometimes we did not write the correct words, but the own mechanism was translated that words in another things that end up looking for the finding the right texts. So with the development of the search engines and the smartphones and many other technologies, you are going. We went through a process of putting more IT inside our lives. So there is, it's coming the next generation that it's the things internet, that you are going to use your voice or another devices to control your air conditioning and the TV and the lights of your house and etc. So, but to make this transition, you have to have some optical fiber internet or broadband internet that is not available to everyone yet. The definition of broadband to the US is 20 megabytes of internet per second. In many plans that are available to us in Brazil, they call it they call 15 or 10 megabytes broadband, and in the international standards, it's not broadband at all. Okay. So when you are collaborating with other people, you can open up chat boxes and you can send voice messages and etc. that make things more understandable. So sometimes the text itself does not have all the information. You have to share some information outside the text that it's being reading, because that way it's gonna flow better. Okay. Sometimes when I was doing the technical school at the college, at the high school, we were each colleague has a machine. We had terminals of very old terminals with black background and the yellow fonts. You remember? And we were doing the tests and the things, and we were messaging with each other with the Unix terminal. I don't know if you are from this environment, but it was fun because how we asked each other, how do I do something. Then another colleague that was from the other side of the room, instead of screaming that answer, just text that your terminal, type man and grep, or type man and pipe, and everything went right, and so on. Different ways for writers to interact with other writers and to engage in Okay. This graph shows the types of interaction that you have in a collaborative work. You can have participant to participant. You have participant to participant through a chat box and through the text editor. Okay. In this paper, they say that 3 participants at most are the best configuration to collaborate simultaneously. But in some papers, just like that Higgins boson, there are so many collaborators from so many parts of the world that they had to have 2 pages only to name all the authors of the paper. 2 pages. But everyone was working separately, and one group of researchers was working with one small pack of data from that one accelerator of particles, and that one another thing, and at the final version, the parts are all assembled together. It's like a machine. The people from the hard sciences are better doing that. But I think when we are the more they approach the human sciences, the smaller the group can be. Okay. So there was an interesting question here that some students thought they were better at technology than they really were. They assessed themselves in a better way than it was the real thing. So these students liked more the collaboration process and less the tool to collaborate, which was the Google Docs platform. And people who are really good at technology and that people who assess themselves in the way that should be assessed really, they liked more the tool than the collaborative process. Okay. Another way to work is developing wikis for your organization. So instead of publishing a big manual that can be a little difficult to find by the members of the organization, sometimes people develop wikis which describe the process that are going on in the organization with tips to how to conduct the process in a better way. And the wikis are good because they can be constructed collaboratively. So there can be a moderator, but anyone can edit that wiki. Just the final version is going to be published or edited by the moderator of the wiki. Okay. So when you are working with collaborative methodology in a discipline, for instance, you can plan your discipline in this way. You should focus on the content, not in the technical skills, because our generation is already used to IT, so it's presumed that people are going to get over the technical difficulties and get to work with that content. So the professor is saying that the focus should be on the content, not in the IT issues. Okay. The platforms that were developed in Web 2.0 are each day are becoming more easy to learn. So even the things that are a little more difficult, like programming and some internet programming languages and etc., they are increasingly getting manuals and wikis and communities to make people use more and learn more easily the things in a collaboratively way. So a tip that the professor is giving is that you don't have to focus on how to overcome the problems of using the tools. You have to put emphasis in the motivation to use that tools. So with that tool, you can assess your students in 30 seconds. There is a tool that you use in your smartphones that you can organize quizzes that are available to your students in their smartphones, and you assess all the class just with one quiz of 30 seconds. So if you can put your class to go through this quiz instead of doing a lengthy test with everybody very much separated in the class, you can get a class more motivated than in the old form. Okay. Before the class that this professor gave, just 2% of the students used before Google Docs, and none of them used the Etherpad platform. And at 2014, the year of the publishing of this paper, 89.8% of the first year students were digital natives. It means that you don't have to be concerned with how they are going to get over the technical issues. They are going to get over. You just have to motivate them and focus on the content of the class. Okay. Just a little. So one problem that they had is that when you have 5, 6, 7 participants editing the document simultaneously, they don't get to keep track of what is being written in the document. So I usually try to work in separate parts of the paper simultaneously, or one peak and then another one peak, and each month another author peak. Okay. So they found that the older people over 40 or 50 years old were a little less connected or a little less competent at using IT than the very younger ones. But this interaction with IT from the younger were compensated by the trial and error process that the older people went through the years. So there was a payoff, a trade-off. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I think it's all. The important thing is how to write in collaboration with other authors. This part is done. Okay. This one is the relationship between academics and the scholarly communication industry. Okay. So this one is about that dilemma that the authors and the publishers face about the impact factor and the access to free knowledge by the community. So the authors and the librarians want to make the knowledge available to everybody, and the publishers and people who earns the money from the industry want to keep it closed to so that every person that has to have access to that knowledge has to pay for that access. So this short paper is about this dilemma, and it tells us about the history of this dilemma. And at the little old times, we used to have commute and other ways of sharing papers and dissertations and everything between the libraries inside the universities. Today, almost we don't make commute. We just make commute to theses and dissertations that are not available in the electronic media. Okay, so this dilemma is not solved, and it's not gonna be solved so early. This last one is useful to organize a mindset to write papers. So this technique is the notebook technique. The author denominates the technique of notebook notebook method. But some people from the education field says that it's more like a portfolio technique. So you start working and you start taking notes of the texts and the things that you are presented to in your portfolio, and the portfolio through time is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And with that big amount of information, if you don't organize yourself, you get lost and you can't get to write your dissertation or your paper or anything. So the author gives some advice on how to organize that big portfolio that you have before you start writing and etc. This is the last one. It's almost over. Okay. So it's a little tip that I learned from having to present some seminars that about things that were presented in the last day before a seminar. Sometimes at my college department, I have to present some seminars that I have to prepare in 1 week or 1 day. So a tip is writing as much as good papers that you can read from periódicos CAPES, for example, and I usually do a 20-minute presentation, and to make a 20-minute presentation, I read at least 20 papers. So if you are going to make a presentation of 4 hours, 4 multiplied by 60 to 240 papers. So luckily, I just had to read 20 papers for a 20-minute presentation. So you can catch the most important findings of those important papers. You let people Google find out which are the most important papers of that field of study. They always are presented first. And then you pick the 20 first papers and go on to the categorizing and writing the presentation process. So, okay. Okay. So sometimes you have to work alongside your busy career. Sometimes you have to work at home and then you travel and you have to pick up your work at the hotel and you have to work at your work site and everything. So it's useful to keep your work in a cloud, just like Google Drive or OneDrive or anything. So if anything happens to your notebook, your work is safe. And another thing is to not have different desktops to work with in different sites. Carry your notebook with you and go on working wherever you are. I think the desktop thing is a tool that delays your work, because every time you have to transfer files, and if you carry your notebook, it doesn't happen. So you organize your information in folders, finding the similarity between the papers. And if you already read all the papers, you can make a big Word or like LibreOffice Docs or etc. A big file with all the summaries of the papers. And after you do the big file with all the summaries, you can categorize information in a more appropriate way. So this way is a little better. I found myself with that kind of thing. So, for instance, I'm gonna show how I am summarizing the information to write a paper with a student.